Well, it's 8 o'clock. Why don't we get going? I know everybody's time is precious and
All right. Well, I think everybody knows me. I'm Chris Gibbs, AB4KK. I've been doing 3D printing since 1985. We worked in the tool and die trade all my life, and then I started teaching it after I did it for 25 years. And so I really enjoy all of my things that I do. I've built all kinds of neat stuff. And so my video is kind of out of, well, it's a little blurry, but anyway, you might not really want to see what I look like. But anyway, I've got a little video that tells all about 3D printing. I've got 6 printers. I got 3 that are right around me in here that I can just reach over. There's one printer, there's one printer, and there's one printer. So they're within reach in one chair. And I got all kinds of stuff that I print, from boxes to towers. The towers I'm going to quit printing though. I've got too many other things that everybody's wanting. And so I'm going to kind of quit with the towers, but I do have a lot printed, but it might not be the right colors that you want, but I've got a lot of them already printed. I've got a whole big box full of them that I just printed, and then I go on to the next thing. But we're going to start doing this kind of thing where, I don't know if you can tell, but there's a backwards view. If I go backwards, it comes out the other way. My video is actually reversed. But this is just a little thing that you set on your desk, and I can make them about twice that size. I'm gonna go into that because I can get it. It prints real well. Towers are really difficult to print. When you look at it, it's got all these, rungs going every which way. And those rungs are out in air. And that's one of the big things when you're doing 3D printing, is printing in air. It's very difficult to do. You can put all kinds of different ways of support to help it print, but then you got to tear it all out. That's a whole lot more trouble. So those are very difficult. I got a lot printed, but I'm going to kind of stick to these other things. But with that said, I am going to start, whoops, I hit the wrong button. I'm going to start a screen share here. And I've got that one, I think it is. Now do you see a printer?
Yep. We see. We're seeing the video now.
All right. Now this is one of my printers, one of the bigger ones. And I was just showing kind of the little call sign display that I showed you. This is actually one that's being printed. It's All-Star. And I've actually got it sitting up here on top of my All-Star node. But the printer, you can see that white line coming down. That's the print head. The print head runs at about, right now, when it's printing that stuff, it's 220 degrees C, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of about 480 or 90 degrees. And it melts the plastic. And as it melts it, it goes through a very small orifice. You can kind of see it. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but right there is the print head. And that white thing down at the bottom is actually a cooling fan. Now that's the reel of plastic that I'm showing there. And you can see the red plastic going into the inlet here, and then it goes through the white and then gets heated up, melted. And what it does is the software that we have takes the model and it chops it into little bitty layers. And then it prints one layer at a time as it builds this model of, and literally you can print anything that can be supported. There are some things you can't print. It just doesn't print well when you got stuff out in the air. Then what you end up doing is having crashes where the print head hits it real hard because it can't print. It's sticking up, jumps back up in the air, all kinds of stuff. But that's the one printer. Then here's my other printer. This one is totally enclosed. That door actually closes down. You can see the table moving up and down. And it's got servo motors that move. You can actually see one of the motors right there. And these are little spacers that I put on the bottom of my little boxes here. And there's one of the boxes. There's a bunch of them with the screws. And there's where they go down on the, well, up on top up there. That's actually the bottom. But that's actually a spacer because there's a fan inside those holes right there. So it gives it a place to get air. And it flows through the top, through the sides. And then I turn it here in a minute and you can see where everything plugs in. You can see the Raspberry Pi. This is the software that runs the printer. So when I want to print some of those, I can put those on the table and move them around on the table and zoom in and move and see what all I'm, where they're at on the table. You can get them too close to the edge and then it doesn't work. Then I can print it. Now, if you look at this screen, that's actually running that printer from the computer. And there's the temperature. It tells you the temperature of the plate, the build plate, and the temperature of the head. So you can watch the temperature, and as it heats up, getting ready to run, then those numbers will change, and then it'll take off printing. And I've already told it to print. You can see it says printing down there at the bottom. And it gives you the percentage. Of course, you can stop it at any time. And there's the little call sign thing that I printed out. And some of the just the simple things. You can see it's on an angle. I actually cut an angle on it so it's tilted slightly. It's a kind of a neat, and we used to build these make these things at the college I taught at. There it is on the printer, kind of, you see it fits on that printer there. That's a smaller printer. And you can see the head moving. That's the actual tip of it is where the plastic comes out. You'll see a little bit come out. You'll see a little bit of white come out. That's actually how much it squirts out on each layer as it starts basically laying layer after layer. Now what it did is it just touched home, set home, and now it knows where it's at, and it goes all over, and it's printing some of those little round washers so that it raises the screw up a little bit more, and air can get up under the pie holder, little pie box I make. And the way it prints, I mean, you can tell it doesn't just really fly. It goes real slow at the very beginning so that it sticks to that table. Then as it gets going and it gets away from the table a little bit, and it's actually adhered to the table because it sticks to it. Sometimes you have to even use glue or hairspray, several things. You can kind of see here. I actually figured out, hey, I can turn the light on my camera. You guys can see this. That's why I said there's no rights on this video because it's amateur, like the radio we do. You can see the circles starting to form as it builds it. It's just amazing still after all these years. I watch these things and I just go, oh, that's just so cool. Because you watch whatever that you designed or drew or downloaded, you watch it just appear before your eyes on the inside these boxes, and it's quite amazing. But it's slow. It takes a while to make 4 of those little washers that I use. Takes about 12 minutes. So I'm not going to do the whole video. I actually paused it there. I figured out I can turn on my light on my phone. Now you can see it a little bit better. And that's the head squirting the molten plastic out. And those printers are about $500 printers. They're not real expensive. I've got one that's a $165 printer. I got some that are $265 printers. They're not real expensive. So it's a kind of a neat little hobby that you can get into fairly cheap, as long as you don't want to get a monstrous printer. We had one at the college I taught at that was $6,000 printer, but you could print almost, well, it was 36 inches by 36 by about 5 feet tall. You couldn't quite print a person, but you could print a big piece in there. Now that plastic that you see, that's printing it solid plastic so that it's real strong. You can print where it actually is hollow in the middle and it doesn't use as much plastic. If you want something strong, like there's the All-Star thing, you can see it's a little bit thicker. Now, this started printing. I started printing all this stuff when I started the video. So that's how long it's taken to get that far. So as it prints, and I don't know if I got in close enough, but those letters, you can actually see webbing inside the letters so that it wasn't solid plastic. It actually has webbing in there. When you need something real strong, then you print it solid. And in fact, the replacement roller that I sent is solid plastic. So it'll be pretty difficult to break that one. You can see the drive motor moving and the plastic going through the little orifice. The little device here is that you see the line going through there is actually a detector that detects if it runs out of line. You actually see the wheel turning. It turns real slow as it's got a little motor that pulls it through. And this is actually a detector that if the line runs out, it stops. And there's the little motor and detector. There's the motor actually turning. You'll see the little gear. It's a little gear, and it's got a real stout spring there. And it just pushes against the line, and it slowly turns and pushes the line through the heating element up on top. These little clips here, that table will actually come off. Some of them you can take the table off. And there's some of the glue behind it. You can see glue on the table. Well, you don't have to clean it every time. You just move the part somewhere else. And then when you get a bunch of glue all over, you take it, put it in the sink and run warm water over it. And it just melts the glue right off of it, cleans it all up. And you put it back on. But these are picture hanging clamps that you can put pictures on with. And I buy them like 100 at a time because sometimes they fly off and I lose them. But you can see the belt moving back and forth. These are the rails that the whole table moves on. I call it the ways. Those you can see there's a leveling screw under there that will level the table. It's got to be pretty close. Otherwise, it would stick to the table or you get all kinds of bad things happening. It doesn't stick, it comes off. One side will be stuck hard, one side won't hardly stick. All kinds of crazy things. And then this is back to the other printer now. And you can see that while we did the other stuff and kind of got off on the other one, that's how much it's actually print. This is real time, how long it takes to print. And so it's like I say, it's not real fast, but the nice part, and this is where I can, most of the time I can sell stuff real cheap because I just get it going. I go bed and it might print for I've got some parts that I make that printed for like 36 hours. And I just go do something else, talk on the radio and the printers, like right now, you don't really hear them much. I got two printers printing on either side of them. You can occasionally hear it a little bit. Most of the guys on the radio said, I'd never know you got printers surrounding you running because they're not real loud. A lot of people always say, well, do they smell from the plastic? If I go out of the house and I have like 3 or 4 printers running, I had one big job that I had to get done real fast. And I had 6 printers running 24/7. And after about the second day, I could go outside and come back in and smell plastic. But normally you don't even notice it. I can run 3 printers. It does warm the room up a little bit because those plates are heated to about 60 degrees C, which you can't hardly put your hand on it. It's past 140 degrees. So, you got a heater basically on 3 of these things running. It'll actually warm the room up a little bit. So I have a fan out in the hall that blows air in here to kind of keep it a little bit cooler. But you don't want to cool the table off. Now there's one of my little call sign towers, but those are the towers that are very difficult to do. That's one of my little radio holders. I actually started building those because I've got some GD77s. And any of you that's ever had a GD77, you cannot stand one of them things up. They fall over. And that's what got me started with the little radio holders. And I've made them for all kinds of different radios. There's one, a guy said, can you make it for 4 radios? I said, sure. And so I made it. He had 4 radios. He wanted one holder to put all his radios in. And that's actually a fan that goes into my portable node. There's the fan. I actually put threaded screw holes in and then use, put screws in there. That's some advertising coffee cup things that I make, hand out every now and then. That's a phone holder. I actually you can put your phone in these things. I put my, I was using my phone, so I couldn't put it in there, but I put my calculator, and I actually calculate the threads, the size of it. This is the node box that I build that I run on all kinds of different types of nodes. I just finished one today that runs on a handheld. You plug 2 cables into a handheld and one of the Bowfang 888s. It's about an $8 handheld. Put a Raspberry Pi 3, one of my boards I build up, plug it in, and you got a node. They're really neat. That discoloration is actually glue. I didn't really, you put that in the sink and wash it off and the glue comes off. But that's one of the very fresh printed cases. The bottom of it's where the fan goes. You see those aisles there for the cable to the fan goes through there, and then the cover goes on, and that keeps stuff from getting in the fan blades. And then you put all the screws. There's one complete. I did them in some different colors. That's actually a QYT or a QYT KP8900R. And you plug, you don't have to do any mods. You plug it right into the mic and you got a node. That one's my portable node done with a Sherry Pi hat. It's got a battery. There's a battery, the port to charge it. You can see the lights flashing in there, but it's not on, so you can't really see it. There's the fan that keeps everything cool. So as you carry it around, put it in a car or something that actually runs the fan, that's the black plug. It goes to the fan. That red one goes to the battery. And I think I tried to plug this in. Yeah, I couldn't hold the camera and do all that at one time. And it's actually booting. You can see the number on top. That's actually on the battery that tells it's 100% charged. And as it runs, it'll tell you what charge is left in it. And you can see the little UHF antenna there is on the back of the Sherry node. And it all fits in a nice box with a little handle you just carry it around. And I throw that on the seat of my car and take the jetpack and I'm ready to go. And I can see how much battery life I have left. There's the top, took the top off so you can see down in it. There's the aluminum case that the Sherry node's in. And the cable's plugged in, and I built those little inserts to hold the battery in place. So it won't slide around. And that's kind of all that stuff I just draw, and I'm going to show you the actual drawing of this thing as soon as the video gets done. It's almost done. And but I have a little spot for the cables to go in, and then where the fan goes, and then plugs into the Sherry node. That's the main power going into it, the red one. And that will run for about on that. It's a 10,000 milliamp hour battery. They'll run all day long, about probably 16 hours, 18 hours on that battery before you have to charge it. Nice part, you can charge it while you're using it. So if the battery gets low, you plug in the charger, let it charge it, and keep on talking, and you don't even have to worry about it. And it runs really nice and cool with that fan running, and it's actually pretty quiet. So there's I call it my lunchbox node. That's a lot of what I do is play with these building nodes all the time. So there's my end of that one. That's the end of the video. And we're going to share this next. Okay, let me make sure that it's showing up on the screen. Do you see the software, drawing software now?
Yeah, the audio desk fusion. Yep.
All right, very good. That's actually the drawing for that box you just saw. And I'm going to have to move this over a little bit. This little box here, I can rotate that and look at it. And then I can zoom. There's where the fan goes. Those are actually, if you zoom in, you'll see the threads actually in the hole. And the handle with the holes, this is just a battery keeper basically. It's got a little step in it because the battery is shorter than the Raspberry Pi. So I made that thing so it wouldn't let the battery slide around. And of course I put a lot of holes for air in the thing. And these are tapped holes, and you can actually thread the hole, and they hold up really well when you print it. Pretty solid. What you do is you can print it where part of it's hollow, and then the thread area and the webbing, the outside layers, you can tell it to print like 6 layers on each side of it. So the inside that's actually hollow isn't much hollow. And so on one that's got threads, I print it like 8 layers. And that gives me a really good strong surface for the threaded holes. And as long as you put plenty of, so if you guys ever put threads in something, just make sure you got plenty of wall thickness for it to hold on to it good. I've got a couple of, I'm gonna have to get up there to the top of this thing. I ain't move that bar up there. There we go. I got it. This is actually the box that holds the little nodes that I built. The board that I buy is a double-sided board. that screws in here. The Raspberry Pi goes there, and then it screws in, so you can put, I only put 2 screws, but I put threads for 4, because if one should strip out, you just flip and swap it to another one. But I can put screws in it, and then these 2 screws, and then the end of my board plugs in, because I use a sound fob, plugs into the Raspberry Pi. And then these are all threaded holes where this top actually gets screwed onto it, and the end plate and the bottom. But that's all the drawings that I created with this software. You can do some really neat stuff with it. And I'm going to kind of demonstrate, because I've got tons of things I can show you as far as things I've created, but I want to show you just how easy. It's really not that bad once you really get the software and start playing with it. You get a blank screen like this, and then you go up here and create a sketch. And you've got this 3D thing that you can pick what surface. I'm just going to pick this one, and that's the surface that I'm looking at. So now I can create a rectangle and go about like so. And I can type in numbers and actually make it any size that I want to. I can go back and change sizes and things. But now I've got a box there. I can go in and turn that into a solid by clicking on it and just pull it up. Or I can type in a number, and now that's a block that's 20 millimeters thick. I do everything in metric just because it's easier numbers. And inch, we have fractions and decimals and all these things that you've got to convert, and then you got to put everything in here in decimal. And I just do it metric is simple. They only have one thing: numbers, decimal numbers. Now I've got a little block. Now I can do all kinds of neat things with this block. I can now take, and I'm just going to show you how you can blow a hole in something. I'm going to do some more drawing on it. So you create another sketch and just click on where you want to draw. And now I can tilt that by using this little block up in the corner. Now, you guys that use Tinkercad, it's much like this. This has just got a lot more features. If I wanted to put text on here, and this is a little bit how I create the call sign display. I can go like that, and then I can type in a call sign. Oops. Well, we'll leave LL. I don't know my call sign. And I can actually make it bold, and I can change sizes of the lettering. And what's nice is you can make it fit. And this is how I do call signs. I just start typing until that looks pretty good. Then I can center it and put it in the center. And then I click OK, and I go, well, really, I wanted that down here. So now I can double click it, and or I don't want to double click it. I want to move it. And I can select to move this thing, and then that little square, I just drag it. And I can tilt it on angles, and I can move it straight up and down, supposedly. In a minute. 0 degrees. That should. I can actually even taper it and move it where I want, grab hold of the phone and move it. Only it wants to go on. I gotta quit doing that angle thing. You can move it wherever you want. After you can put it on angles, all kinds of neat things. Or you can go, well, I screwed that up real bad, and I can just go down, go, that ain't what I wanted to do, and delete it. And get rid of the screwed up mess. Maybe I will. Okay, and I'm back to there. Now then, you can always pull and push. Like I go, well, I didn't make that wide, so I can go like this, and I can shrink that. Go back. This is looking at the top, looking at the right side, looking at the bottom, and you just roll it around to what side you want to work on. So now I go, well, how about if we put something else there and create some other thing on it? But I'm going to go back to the text because I went, well, I didn't want it that tall. So if I decide I wanted to make it shorter down here and then put the text, I'll go back, go like this. And boy, I can't spell my call, can I? There we go. And then I can just click OK. And then this is kind of interesting. Notice solid and create that as a solid. But I don't know how thick anything is because I just kind of clicked and clacked. And so I can actually go over here and tell it to make that thing this thick. So the little circle pops up there. And then I tell it to join it. And then when I turn it, you can see my name sunk in it. And then I can move that up and down until I get it just barely sunk into it. I'll leave it there because you can change all kinds of things on it. Now I want to put an angle on it. So I go like this and tilt it just slightly, make sure I get the front side right, and put an angle. And you can go out in the air, and all you do is just create a box. And I've got a box created bigger than the whole thing. And I go over here to my solid, and I can cut that away. It knows where the part's at. It's not going to cut away the air. And then I tell it I'm going to cut it. And I go take that little arrow and go work. I go well out there. And it's cut a flat on. That's on an angle. So now when I set it down, it's leaning forward. Now I can make it go the other way and make it lean the other way. So, and just, it doesn't really take a whole lot to do a lot of these things to get it ready to print, really. I can draw one of those pretty quick. And then I take that and to take it from the software here on Fusion 360, all I do is take that and I can save it, or I can go down here to 3D print. And this is what's neat about the software. And then you look at all this stuff and it says, well, I want to print that. It's going to automatically go to Cura, which is the software that some of the software I use. And I click OK. And it's going to start up the other software. So I'm gonna close this down and stop that one and start another share screen so you can kind of see it when it comes up. I don't think it started yet. There's one of them. But anyway, I'll show you this one just for the sake of time. That's actually what's printing back here behind me. And that's going to be in the way. There we go. Move that out of the way. And I think it's still loading my little hourglass. There it is. And there's what I'm printing on the printer right now beside me. Now it'll take what I just drew and it'll put it in this software. But that's actually a holder. And you can turn it, look at it for an MD 2017, TYT 2017. And I print up, I got a little spot fest we're going to Saturday. And I'll print up a whole bunch of these things, all kinds of different handhelds, and take them and I sell them for $5. And we usually sell out of them pretty quick. But that's kind of the presentation I got. So we can open up for questions. If anybody has any questions, they want to see something a little different. Oh, one other thing, if I want to put a radius on here, I can click the radius and tell it like a 2mm radius or 3, and just keep going until I put a radius on there. And now that's how easy it is to put a nice radius on something that blends real nice. But any questions?
Once you, maybe you stop sharing so we all can see each other, maybe.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go.
Now we're back with everybody.
I'd like to know about that battery. I like that readout. What, I'd like to get a model number.
Yeah, okay. I get them from Amazon. And I'll send you a link to its easiest way.
Okay.
I've got your email, so if anybody wants a battery like that, I get them on eBay, or not eBay, Amazon, and they're like $16.95. Or you can get one that's a little bit fancier that has a USB C that can be charged or it can be used for power, either one. But it's the same battery, the same size, it's got the same readout, the whole thing. I'll send you a link to the thing. It's a really neat battery. They're great because they show you how much you got left, and you can also charge it while you're using it. That's the neat part. Anybody else?
I know Dan has a question. He's raising his hand through the Zoom thing.
Does the battery cause a glitch when you pull the power out of it for the charger?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll reset things.
Oh, it does?
With the switch, if you get it with the switch, you can turn the switch off and it doesn't glitch so bad. But if you unplug it, it tends to reset the Raspberry Pi.
Thank you.
I've never had it hurt anything doing it. I've got some of these things I've been running now for about 5-6 years and never lost the Raspberry Pi yet. So it doesn't seem like it really hurts it too bad.
I have
Yeah,
a
hold your hand up.
So I have a question. So if I ask, so I have an Anytone 868, and I am trying to get a thing that'll connect the Anytone to a bike. So if I find the plans for that, if I send them to you, would you be able to print them?
I don't usually do that because a lot of times when you find stuff, and that's why I draw my own stuff, you can't really print it. But if it can be printed, I'll be glad to. But I run into stuff a lot of times it can't print.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen it 3D printed before. So it is a 3D print item.
Yeah, and it just depends on how they drew it. I've got a dog just like that one. It's a black and tan, just like the dog.
Okay.
Well, if you'll send me the either the model or something, I'll look at it and see if I can print it. And then I can tell you from there.
Okay.
I got a comment on that.
Yeah.
So if you could print it round, there's a nice cup holder that I purchased for my bike on Amazon. You could just drop it into that.
I've got some round ones. Yeah, I have round ones and I have square ones.
This has the fastener for the handlebars, so it's got the tensioner in there to kind of hold it in place. So
yeah, I make them that go down in there. It's real neat. But I need to know what size the hole is because they vary a lot. But I make one that I use for a mobile mounting for HF rigs and dual band rigs and stuff. And it goes down in the cup holder, and then I've got a screw down through it, and I 3D print all of it. And I print it solid because it gets hot in the car. And I've never had one fail yet. I mean, it's been sitting in the car now for about 3 years in a Silverado that the sun hits it, you know.
right.
So it's pretty good. But what it does is it has expanders that actually you screw the screw and it expands out in wedges inside the cup holder because not all cup holders are the same. And then on top of it, I have a slot that I put mobile mount brackets for mobile radios. And that works good. And if you wanted to do it on a bike, I cut a little different hole in it for a handheld. And the only problem I could think of is when you hit a bump, the handheld flies out anyway without strapping it in. But I make them that are just round. It probably, if you can tell me what diameter is, I'll make sure it fits. Because I just make them for it's the size of a Coke can. If you take a Coke can and stick it in there, it'll be that big in the hole. But you can always take a rubber band or something and wrap it around,
Right.
To keep it from flying out. Because I rode Harleys for years and I'd strap it in that way. I actually had a mount similar to that.
Yeah, this would work. I use it with the smaller water bottles, and a Coke can would fit in there just fine too.
Yeah, so it probably fit. Just tell me what size hole. That's the easiest way. That way I make sure it'll fit, or I can actually even change the size of the diameter of it without even affecting the handheld. That it fits the inside, because it actually is custom fit for a specific handheld so that it's not wobbly and doesn't fall out. And for the belt clip, it actually has a little place, a notch for the belt clip that you can go down in it. That's kind of important, or it doesn't set down in it far enough to keep it from falling over. But
Chris, do you have any of your toys handy that you could just for a visual, anything that we
Yeah.
could all see? I know you kind of showed me the other.
Yeah, there's one that I showed you. That's actually the node with the board in it and the Raspberry Pi. It's not in focus too well. Let me see if I can focus it here. I don't have great light. That's a little bit better. But you can see that's a two-sided board with a sound fob and transistor and diode resistors and stuff to do all the keying. Then here's that's the single for just a Raspberry Pi. This one doesn't have anything in it. You can see all the way through. It's got a slot for the SD card. And then you plug in stuff here. Here's one that's got one in it. And there's the Raspberry Pi. And that slot is actually on the bottom for the fan. So you can plug and unplug the fan. If you don't want to use the fan, you can unplug it. You can take and hook it up to the Raspberry Pi board. But I like to be able to turn it on and off without having no solder or something. So I use a Raspberry Pi and it works great. And there's the vent holes in the side. Here's one of the boards. See if I can. That's actually glue. And when I get done, I seal them so that you can't jerk wires loose. I can take this thing, go like that, and it won't come loose. That actually slides inside this case. That's this board. It just slides in. And that's, it's actually glue on both sides where that's actually tight on there. This is the cable that plugs into the radio. And I don't know if you can tell, but it's a 6-pin DIN plug that plugs into Yazoo's. Any of the Yazoo's that's got the 6-pin DIN plug, it plugs in, no mod to the radio. It picks up the COS line, all the audio, and you can listen to the radio. Like I've got a FT8900, and you can actually turn the radio up with the other side and have one side of node running. And that's kind of a neat setup, but I have them for the QYT, which is the what is it, J45 plug. And then my latest one is right here. And there's the cables. And it comes out, you can see it running. And then you take this, actually charge the battery up. This is neat. Low Fang $8 handheld. When you plug it in, this makes a really nice one. I've seen all kinds of different setups. And now we've got the radio plugged in. And there's the idea. Now I just set the handheld out of the way. And I can, now, the only problem is I get it over too close to stuff. And it picks up all kind of stuff. There. But anyway, there's the hooked up to a handheld. Only I'm getting into my own radio here. I forgot I had the other one on. I've got two nodes on the same frequency is what it is. There's the one running that's getting into it. And to turn it off, I just simply unplug. And now it'll quit that. I can actually turn this back on now and it'll quit that. Well, I've got it plugged in. AB4KK tester. And we have a node. So the little box with a little bit of circuitry. And I've got these cables that I get from DigiKey. They're shielded cables. Now, sometimes you still have to move the handheld around and get it out of the way to keep from getting kind of a high pitched whine in the background, which is RF getting back into it. But for the most part, you can just find a sweet spot, set the handheld, like 6-foot cables, so you can stretch them all over the place and kind of get it out of the noise. I guess you call it, get it to quit making noise. This is another little box I make. I don't know if you can see it. There's a Raspberry Pi Zero in that box. And the top, I make different tops. This just unscrews and the top comes off. And I put the little zoom spots in it. Okay. And it has a hole for the antenna and the screen. This one I sealed up because it runs a GD77. You can actually plug in GD77 handheld to the USB cable on it. It runs Raspberry Pi Zero with the Pi Star software. And you plug the card in here and you set it up. And with this new blind ham software, if you guys don't know about it, it's really neat for a Radio Oddity GD77. It turns it into one heck of a radio. It talks to you. It was designed for blind hams. It does all the voice stuff, but also has a hotspot mode. And you can actually turn the handheld, it's a DMR, analog radio, and you can turn on the hotspot and plug it into this, and you got a hotspot. You can hook the external antenna, and you can't run 5 watts and get too hot, but you can run about a watt, and you got a pretty good little higher powered than the little ones for the digital modes. I got another one here. There they are. Now these are my other ones. This one is a dual hat that's actually and you can see the screen, it's out of focus on the screen, but anyway, it's got the screen that tells who's on. Again, the same battery that I use for other stuff. You can see how much battery's left. There's inside there's the lights for the COS lines and all that. And then kind of the same idea with a handle. You carry it around. It runs, this one's actually on the air, and I have to write on them what they are. This is on D-Star right now because I forget which one's on what. You plug in and charge it. And then you've got a actually on and off button here on the battery on one side that you can get to it. On that big box, you can't get to it. But that's actually a Raspberry Pi Zero running a top hat, one of the dual ones. And on DMR, it's not only, it'll do the dual time slot, but also runs dual frequency. You set it up just like here. And it's UHF. So you actually put a repeater pair in there, and that is a repeater. You can take 2 handhelds and key them, and you'll hear yourself talking on the other handheld on the output of it. So this is really neat to take around to field day or something, and you got a portable repeater. Now it doesn't go real far, of course, but around the like field day or something like that, it'll go across my house anyway. And then this is another one that's just like it. And the same thing, just different colors. Sometimes I get kind of colorful. And like I say, I have to write on what they are, what frequency, because I have a lot of these things laying around. And I go, well, I don't know, I forgot what it's on. And it's kind of a pain to look and figure out what in the world you had it on. But these are little dual spots. It's a really neat little thing. It runs on a Raspberry Pi Zero, believe it or not. And it runs pretty good. That's the most amazing part, because the battery on these things will last for about 3 days on a battery because of the Pi Zero. You know, the Pi 3 takes a lot more power, but the Zero doesn't hardly take anything. Those things are run. So for emergency power, it's really nice. I don't know if you can see this one back here. That's a Yazoo FD817, and I printed out the whole thing goes in. And I actually hook this up as a node sometimes with one of those DIN plugs, and there you got a node. All kinds of stuff, because people want different types of nodes and things. Some of my other handheld holders, I got all kinds of different ones. This one's for a UV5R. This is a Motorola XPR 7550E. Through the years, I've got a lot of handhelds printed up. The BTEC 6X2, a whole bunch of them that, you know, you just tell me what handheld holder you want. I usually got one for it. Even the Valfang, this one, I can take that same plug and plug it into this one, and I'm got a hotspot. And these you can get 2 for $29. They're UHF only channel. So if you don't know 88S plus, this is the plus, and that other one is a not the plus, just 888S. Those make kind of neat little nodes. But that's a lot of the stuff that I got. But I could show you stuff for a long time. I stay busy making stuff all the time.
I'd like to go back to that handheld for a minute. You said, does that handheld have a built-in Wi-Fi hotspot in it?
Yeah,
I was unaware of that.
yeah, this one. That's the GD77. It's got it's software that you download. It's firmware, and it talks to you. Listen.
Contact
It talks for a while because it said East Coast Reflector. It's on the East Coast Reflector, and but it reads the screen to you. But you can set it up, and it's got the same plug-in. It's got the 2 plug-in, and all you do is hook it up to. You put the software in, put the new firmware in, and plug in the programming cable. Then you set up a Raspberry Pi Zero or 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. Any Raspberry Pi. Plug in the USB plug into the device and set the handheld in. You go into the settings and turn on the hotspot mode. And when you boot it up, it'll be the hotspot transceiver in hotspot mode on DMR. I don't know if it'll work on analog, but it works great on DMR. It's kind of neat. The audio is beautiful on it, much better than the little Pi hats and stuff. And that's what I've tried to do with some of this stuff is the Pi hats don't have quite as good audio, but this thing is amazing. And it makes a really nice hotspot. And I just plug it in the cradle to charge it. And what's neat is it will actually, when you put the new firmware in, it will run down to 50 milliwatts of power. You've got more control of the audio levels, all kinds of stuff. The power, it'll go from like 50 milliwatts, 100 milliwatts, 200 milliwatts, 500 milliwatts, and 750, and then 1 watt, and then 2, 3, 4, 5 watts. and it'll actually watch foot. You're going to get into itself, and what it'll do is keep disconnecting if you run too much power because it gets back into the Raspberry Pi if you're real close to it. That's what I've experienced. But hook an outside antenna to it and quits that. I wouldn't run 5 watts, it'd be too hot. But I've run a watt for a month and just keeps on going. And just hook it to an outside antenna, and I can actually hear it in town in Folkestone 2.5 miles away. So it makes a neat little hotspot and get into it because it's got a little better receiver than those little hats that you can get. And that is really neat. Just look up Open GD77BH. Stands for blind hams.
I have a quick comment to make, if I may.
Pardon?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am a blind ham myself. And frankly, I found that screen reader to be highly annoying. But the other thing to look at, because we're talking about nodes, and I don't know if this will be something that you'd want to address, but there are analog ways of doing the whole hotspot thing, such as DV switch. And one node manufacturer that is amazing for the blind is a manufacturer called Node Ventures. They make the clear node. And so if you're looking for a good node for the blind that's controllable via your iPhone or your Android device, honestly, I would say the clear node. And that's just my opinion. I'll go back on mute.
Yeah, and I'm real familiar with those, the clear node. This is actually, this one that I was holding up is a DV switch. It's actually running DV switch that I've been playing with and turning it into a switching to All-Star to DMR and things like that. The clear node is probably a lot simpler, maybe. They say it's a little tough to set up, but when you set it up, boy, it works great. And I've heard a lot of them on there, and they work really well. But I don't try to do many of the modes. For a long time, I can make a Raspberry Pi with one of the Pi Star software, do anything, make it flip on, do tricks and stuff. Did a lot of cross mode. And what I found through all my tweaking and trying to make it sound good, you ain't gonna make digital modes like DMR, Fusion, D-Star, and all them sound like analog that you get on All-Star. It just isn't going to sound as good. I've got, in fact, I was had the handheld on DMR going through to East Coast Reflector, and a lot of the audio is kind of really bad, and some of it's pretty good. But you can't make it all sound good. It just doesn't work. So what I've found, and in my, I don't know, I've been working on about 6 or 7 years of doing all kinds of different cross modes and the DV switch thing and stuff. The clear node is probably the best. The rest of them are, I keep telling everybody, if you want to work DMR, get on DMR. If you want to work All-Star, get on All-Star. You'll be happier. The audio is so much better. But a lot of people like the cross mode, and it's just, you're not going to have as good audio. But that clear node does sound really good.
I guess that's why we're kind of an analog system, basically, Chris, between IRLP and All-Star.
Right. it just sounds so good. The All-Star, I love it. It's just beautiful audio on it. And that's one thing that I really like about it, is the audio is magnificent compared to the others. I'm an old repeater builder from FM days and had FM repeaters, and you just can't make it sound like an FM repeater. It don't. It just ain't gonna do it. You get noisy, and it's like, oh God, that sounds bad, you know. But it does work, and you can get a message through, and you can understand what they're saying. But if you're really, it's like one guy said, mentioned the third note, that thing, fabulous. It does sound a lot better. But you'll get some still screwed up audio even on it. It just depends on what, if they're overdriving, it sounds bad. You know, audio's got to be set just right, or it just sounds awful.
Any other questions for Chris?
Yeah, Chris, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
You mentioned that you had a lot of different models for the different HTs. Does your website, I haven't looked at it yet, forgive me, but does your website actually list, or do you just prefer somebody emails you and tell you what they have and what they want?
Oh, not that. Well, the web, it's actually a Facebook site.
Oh, okay.
Facebook, you can send me messages, you can look at the stuff. I just send pictures and say, hey, here's my latest creation. I don't even, some of the stuff every now and then I'll put a price, but most of the time I don't even do that. I always just say, if you want something, send me what you want, I'll tell you what it costs.
Okay. So, and you mentioned earlier something that's already been done in 3D printing. Even if, you know, a lot of websites will have a link like to a case or something for a 3D. So what, from what you said before, you still have to look at that and see if that's something you want to fool with, right?
Yeah, because there's so many that I,
Right.
It's just, they don't print well at all.
Okay. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Because I did go and get a bunch of stuff, and my students would always bring stuff in and say, man, look what I found, this would be cool. And it would be some figurine that had arms that stuck up and fingers. And, you know, when you got a hand like this in the air on an ankle, you got to have something to keep that from sagging. When it's molten plastic, it's just going to go, and then, or it's going to stay up and the head comes by and goes wham right in the side of it, knocks it off in the floor. It's real tricky. Usually I look at a model and go, that ain't going to print, or yeah, it'll print good. And that's what I tell them was, well, that'd be all right, except that ain't going to print good at all. You know, it just, there's things that'll print, there's things that won't. But like I say, you can show me what it is, I can tell you if it'll print or not.
I'm still looking, Chris, for something that we can put East Coast reflector on, and, you know, ball caps and t-shirts are kind of getting old. You know what? We need to get some input
I
there.
never got an absentee shirt.
Well,
T-shirts are good. I do have a little thing that clips on a ball cap with your call sign. And you just push it on the ball cap on the bill, and it goes on your but by the time you got something big enough to read that says East Coast reflector,
yeah.
that's way too much.
Some of us go back to the days when you used to wear a hard hat to a hamfest with a tower on it, on the top of the hard hat. You know, I mean, you've seen everything at hamfest.
Yeah, we can make a little sign on top that says East Coast, you know, and then you can spin it.
How about East Coast reflector hard hats?
What was it? East Coast what?
East Coast Reflector hard hat.
Well,
I of course am kidding.
that'd be pretty big.
Seriously, I'm looking for some gimmick that we can, you know, put our trademark on and have you make and ship out, I guess is.
Yeah, see, like, there's one that I do, but it's just a coffee cup thing, coaster. And I've got my little tower in there, and it's got my phone number, and I'll print these things out and hand them out. But that's, everybody has a coaster. I bought a Yazoo 991A at Orlando, and from HRO, they hand me a whole bunch of coffee cup things, everybody gives out the little coffee cup things. Of course, you got the coffee cup, and I've got one that I drink out of all the time because I won a contest from Gulf Coast Mullet Society down in the Gulf Coast, running QRP on 80 meter AM, the furthest station out, and they heard me running 5 watts from Folkestone to Bay Minette and the area down in their Mobile area. They could hear me down there on 5 watts on 80 meters AM at 6 o'clock in the evening, which is kind of amazing. And I said, well, wait a minute. I was running my little Yazoo 817. I said, wait a minute, let me put on 1 watt. And I went to 1 watt, and they said, oh, you got to be kidding. I can still hear you. Not good, but I can tell you're there, and I can almost understand you running 1 watt.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think you mentioned tonight, Chris, but you did mention about your Facebook, but it's AB4KK Tower Call Sign, correct? That's
Right.
on Facebook. The guys can see some of your products.
Yeah, and I put a lot of the stuff I build on there. A lot of times I put stuff to give people ideas because although I do this and I sell stuff, I never have been a hard-headed person that goes, oh, I came up with that. I ain't gonna show nobody. Anybody that has ideas that wants to learn, I would even, and I have entertained the idea of teaching the software online, just like I showed you, and teach people how to draw with it because it's free. That's the nice part. When you're in education, when you're learning, you can actually get it for free. All you do is tell them you're a student, and you get it free. I get it free because I'm a small business, and they actually, if you don't sell over $500,000 a year, which I don't, it's just a hobby thing for me. I make a few extra bucks, so I can buy another radio, or buy another printer, or buy more line to print something. So it's not a hard-headed, I got to make $1 million thing, and I never will. So I like to help people. I've done that all my life, and that's why I taught for 37 years to teach people how to do this, because I'll be dead gone. And if people aren't taught and if they don't learn, where's it going to go? So it's kind of one of those things I like to pass on what I've learned through the years to anybody so that they can, it'll keep on going. And I do that because I was a tool and die maker. And I can say, anybody know what a tool and die maker is? And about 90% of the time, like I'll ask the group here, how many of you know what a tool and die maker does for real? Hey, there's a couple. Most people have no clue.